What's good, everybody? Welcome to episode 34 of Trapped in My Mind. Richie Rich is in the building. What up, my dude?
I really like this song. Where did you make this?
So I don't want to say the exact song because it might get flagged, but
don't do that.
So it was a song. Mm-hmm. I love the song. I sent it to my buddy Matt Freed, who we used to make music together. Okay. And he took the music, he chopped it, like took different parts of it, added drums, reversed it, and put like a filter on it, and then created that. So it was a song that he sampled, and he made something else.
So our intro for our show, I like it a lot. It kind of like is our vibe, you know what I mean? And then I paid a guy on Fiverr to do a voiceover for it. Okay. Which is super fun. He's like, you're now listening to the most mediocre podcast on the planet, and then ends it with "Welcome to the Thunderdome, bitch." Uh-huh. And I was like, can you sound like the Monster Jam guy? And he was like, fuck yeah, I can. And he sounds just like him. And the song I originally did was a song that would always come on when we were closing at Bar Louie. It's Max Frost, Good Morning. And I chopped it so that it was only like the end of the song where it was just the instrumental and like there's like a chorus in the background going like na na na. And then the end of it was I chopped it again, and it was "The Rest of My Life Gonna Start Today." And it got flagged immediately. Really? Like, without hesitation.
So it's not that same song anymore?
No. So what I paid a now ex-girlfriend of mine's brother, who produces music, to make our intro, and he did a pretty good job.
And then you still have the voice, the Fiverr guy's voice.
Yeah, over the top of it.
Okay.
It's pretty dope.
You gamble when you sample something, because I thought it would get flagged. It sounds pretty different, but if you heard the song, you would know. Yeah. And the weird thing is, only one of my episodes got flagged, and it was like episode 9, like randomly in the middle, but it wasn't flagged for that. It was flagged for my end credits on YouTube, and it says it was like because you can see like if you click what it was used for, you can it goes to the video, and it was like some Brazilian news station. I'm like, none of this is the same, so I disputed it, and ultimately I got the episode's back live. But I'm like, how the fuck did that get mistaken? Because like the whole episode was in Portuguese because it was Brazilian, so I don't know how they thought I took it from there and not like the actual song. You got a sweaty cup?
I didn't think the cup would put a ring on it. Now everybody's gonna see it.
It's gray shorts. I don't think people will see that.
Should have wore gray sweatpants.
For the lady viewers or listeners.
But I'll let you take control of your show again. Go ahead.
Well, see, this show is more so just conversation. It's not even like it's not an interview. Mm-hmm. But I will say, you introduced some things that I was going to use to introduce you. One, we worked at Bar Louie together. Yep. Also went to school. Well, you didn't introduce this, but I also went to school with both your brothers, but Tim was in my grade. And then, I was going to say, I was going to ask you at the end of the show if you want to plug your podcast, but since it's already brought up, you might as well just plug it now and then again at the end.
Yeah, I can plug it now. So I have a podcast, obviously, called Honestly Oversharing. Anything you think about this show, it's the complete opposite for the most part. Yeah. It's kind of the topic that we're talking about today, but it's a comedy podcast where if you know anybody who is a drummer or a goalie, or a catcher in baseball, those are all like the craziest people.
That's the truth. Goalies for sure.
So I have 2 goalies on the show. We got a guy who's a Twitch streamer, and then we got a guy who played midfield, which are also the crazy people in soccer. So
midfielders
are
the goalies.
They're always quiet crazy.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, because they analyze everything.
Well, yeah. So it's like goalie and midfielder on the opposite ends of the crazy spectrum. Yeah. Like it's the quiet ones you got to watch out for. At least the loud people, you know what to expect from them, right?
That's typically true.
So we just talk about the dumb stuff that we've done. Just to give you an example, first episode I talked about how I was on a run and I was too far from home, but also too close to home to like not finish the run, and I had to take a shit.
Oh,
so I found somebody's backyard.
F in the chat for that.
Yeah,
we've all been there though.
Yeah, so I was like running through this neighborhood, and I saw St. Bernard in somebody's window, And I walked around the house to make sure nobody was home. I took a shit in their backyard.
So were you figuring that the St. Bernard probably has the same size shit as a human?
At least close. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So you thought it through a little bit.
And I hadn't had corn in a while, so they wouldn't be like, wow, somebody took a shit in my backyard. So I need to ask you a question to ask me a question. Ask me how I wiped.
I honestly don't know if I want to ask, because I had a friend do the same thing, and he didn't wipe.
Oh, I wiped.
So then, was it your hand?
No, I sat down on the grass.
Like a butt scoot.
Like a dog.
You fully embodied the St. Bernard that you saw.
What's that? The shaggy dog? Where the guy turns into the fucking sheepdog?
Is that a movie?
Yeah, it's a movie.
I haven't seen it.
Wow, I'm not that much older than you. It's with not Tom Hanks. Who plays Buddy or Buzz Lightyear?
It's a cartoon.
Yeah.
Who voices it?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Tom Hanks is Woody, right?
Tom Petty.
Whatever. Anyways, I sat down and wiped, just like rubbed my ass through the grass, and then finished my run. It was honestly one of the better.
That's gotta be a stinky ass run, though.
I mean, it was hot as fuck outside. It was in the middle of summer.
Yeah, and so you just got that marinade.
It was in the middle of a 4 mile.
And you just got that marinade in there, dude. I can feel like I can picture that, and then it's.
So this might not be something you know about me, but I poop on average about 3 to 4 times a day.
I feel like 3 is healthy. 4's pushing
just so you know, apparently twice a week is the healthiest.
Says who?
A lot of doctors. Dr. Drew.
No fucking way.
On your mom's house.
Fact check that. Look
it up. Dr. Drew says it's okay to only poop once to twice a week.
Hold on.
As long as they're healthy poops.
Hold on.
Okay, you look it up.
I'm going to look it up right now because this is some bullshit. If you're listening to this, I want to know. No one's live right now, just FYI. But I always get some feedback, and I'd like feedback on this, and I won't judge you unless it's somebody I know who goes 8 times a day, which is unhealthy. How many times?
It's like IBS status.
Yeah, and I don't think they even have IBS. How many times how would you even Google? How many poops per day is healthy?
Well, yeah. What is kind of healthy? Cadence? What is a healthy poop frequency?
Okay. What is a healthy?
What a thing to Google.
I know, it's going to be my fucking...
Your history is going to be...
See, but the thing is, I'm an adult, so I don't give a fuck about my history. I was just thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I used to, like, when I was, like, going on porn or whatever, try to hide my history.
When you were 16?
Yeah.
And somebody had access to this computer that you were using?
Yeah. Well, no. I never used a family computer. I had a buddy who did that. He got fucked hard from that.
Well, okay. So did the porn star.
So the first thing, again, this is from healthline.com, so it's not a .gov or a .org, but it says, as a broad rule, pooping anywhere from 3 times a day to 3 times a week is normal. So that's a wide range.
3 times a week. See,
but 3 times a day is normal too. That's what I said.
Apparently, but a lot of people think it's weird, and it's not like they're little ones either. Like I'm filling up.
Okay.
I have a really high metabolism. I don't know.
That's a good thing.
I'm trying to make excuses for myself.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I shit in somebody's backyard. So that's a podcast. It's just about stupid shit. That's what now I remember where I was going with this. Yeah.
So would you say, if you had to summarize like the genre, it'd be comedy or?
Yeah, comedy like stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I like the idea of storytelling. I'm thinking of making the pivot to just storytelling, because I feel like if I'm listening to somebody's podcast, I like to hear what stories they have, even if I don't know them.
Well, so once a month too, we have Conspiracy Week.
Okay.
Like, okay. just so you guys know, we're gonna be live tomorrow. At
this won't go out today.
Okay, then whatever.
What days are you live?
Wednesdays.
There you go.
At 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just in case there's people.
I have international listeners.
Oh shit, we do too. It's awesome. Doesn't it make you feel good?
It's weird, but I'm like, who is in Guam listening to my podcast?
People in Germany love us. Okay. I mean, a lot of shit talking. So
yes, they do.
Yes, they do. All right, so
it's like Italian.
Yeah, whatever, dude. I'm really bad at that. But Wednesdays, 6:30. The first week of August is when this one. We're gonna talk about how Ed, and Eddie are actually in purgatory.
You have to definitely. We'll save it for that one, but you'll have to explain it.
Yeah.
One question, and I guess I should have asked yesterday. So, the day that we're recording this, the previous day, I was on your podcast. Well, I was on like a live
segment of our podcast. It's called Before War.
Yeah, and you go live on Twitch. Yeah. So obviously, I wasn't watching live on Twitch because I was a participant. How does can you watch those afterwards?
Yeah, you can watch them afterwards. You can watch them live. We have it so that Twitch, because now we're affiliate, Twitch saves our videos.
Okay.
So it's twitch.tv/honestly oversharing. And then it's at honestly oversharing on Instagram, at honest overshare on Twitter. What else are we on? What else?
YouTube?
Not yet.
TikTok?
Not TikTok, at honestly oversharing. Not yet with YouTube because we just started doing the video stuff and actually like saving them.
Yeah.
And we have a segment on Fridays called Bar Talk. It's like a 3-hour stream, and that's what we're going to make our YouTube based on. Our first episode, we like did a roast of everybody because we went through each other's Facebooks.
Okay. Oh boy.
It was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, I could roast myself for days off my Facebook. Mm-hmm. I just don't feel like changing it.
I had to delete. So a couple of years ago, I had already gone through and like deleted a bunch of stuff because now I'm a working professional to make sure that I could get hired. So It wasn't as bad as it could have been. Because in college, I like to take my shirt off. So
So were you at one point? Well, we on your podcast when I was on it, we talked about pet peeves. Mm-hmm. Would you say that the pet peeve I brought up of, I guess, everybody being an Instagram influencer because
I wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Where I wasn't taking pictures of myself with my shirt off. I was DJing, and I would be fucking blackout hammered DJing and be in somebody's sweaty ass basement behind a bunch of electronics that were just overheating, and a lot of the speakers were like these people's parents from the 80s, like big ass, like 20-inch PV speakers.
Yeah.
So I'd be hot as hell back there, so I'd just take my shirt off. And it wasn't like, look at me. It was like, wow, now I'm not sweating my ass off.
But then you posted the picture, so it was partially you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of like workout pictures where I have a shirt on.
Okay.
But it's like a percentage of a shirt.
Was it like, did you put like inspirational quotes like,
no,
every day I just got to wake up and go 10% harder?
No, it was like, there's that fly again.
Yeah, there's a fly in here, so
just ignore it.
Ignore it.
If like that, God, I'm a golden retriever.
Squirrel.
Yeah. But it would be like, didn't fart while working out today, or like dropped a weight on my toe.
Okay.
But friends don't let friends skip leg day, like stuff like that. It was always like stupid.
A little undertone of humor.
I would rather inspire you with either my one stupidity or two just me doing the action than me like giving you some bullshit. Like it's what the old adage, like actions or words or actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
I'd rather you see my progress than like have to fucking hear about it. I mean, we talked about it like at length yesterday.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it. But so the title is Honestly Oversharing. Did you come up with that?
Yeah. I came up, so not to toot my own horn here, but I came up with the whole concept. So the two guys that I started the show with, Billy and Matt, it was basically like Bar Talk is on Friday nights is basically like what the show was supposed to be, right? So we would always have these amazing, hilarious conversations at the bar, right? Whether alcohol was like had already been involved or whether it hadn't been involved yet, we'd have these like awesome conversations, and we all like we're a very tight knit group of like friends. Like I've never been the guy that has like 30 really close friends that all like go on these fucking trips to Vail and shit. Like I have like 4 or 5 really close friends, and we do stupid shit together.
Okay.
And we would just have these amazing conversations, and some guys wanted to be a part of the show and some didn't, which was fine. But so right before COVID, my New Year's resolution was to do 2 open mic stand-ups. That obviously couldn't happen. So I was like, what's a way that I could still do that, feel like I accomplished something? I was like, I mean, everybody else is doing podcasts, but I think I'm bringing something different to the table. It's not just funny. Like there's other things included in it. And I was like, what is it about? I mean, it's about stupid shit that I did. And I was like, everybody tells me I am a chronic oversharing person.
Okay.
So I was like, honestly oversharing. It's literally what it is. And like the logo is just like a guy leaning back drinking a beer. Like,
yeah. No, I like the name for sure.
Yeah. It just like came to me one day, and I was like, I would listen to that if like it was like, would I listen to that podcast? I would listen to that podcast just based off the name. You know what I mean? So I was like, that's a fucking, like, your name, Trapped in My Mind. What a fucking amazing name for a podcast.
Well, it's kudos to Kid Cudi because it's the name of his song.
Well, but, I mean, I get it, but like still, like you still had the mindset to be like, honestly, that'd be fucking awesome podcasting.
Yeah, no, but I like what you're saying of would I listen to that, because now you got me thinking, because I love the conversations that I have on this, but I don't know if I listen to my own podcast or not. Because I
edit it. I edit the thing, and I still listen to it because I'm like, I want to hear how that sounds in my car. Well, I want to hear how that sounds in my headphones coming from my phone, because it does sound a little bit different after you edit it and post it.
Well, see, I don't even really mostly. I don't ever cut anything. Like, I just try to leave it all in, but I do listen to it back. And my girlfriend actually was like making fun of me for it. She's like, "Why would you, like, that's not narcissistic, but like you have no, like, you were part of the conversation. You don't need to listen to it back." But like, I listen to it back because I want to hear, for one, another, like, take a second back from what the conversation and re-listen to what the other person's saying, and then also hear how I sound to see how I'm presenting myself. So I listen to it back to, I guess, examine and learn from the conversation.
I used to hate my own voice, like hearing the sound of my own voice. And I started to listen back to it because it like, to be honest, it gave me a lot of confidence in what I was doing.
Okay.
Like, I really enjoy the sound of my own voice, and I don't think I necessarily have a voice for radio, but like
just a face for radio.
It's God damn it. But I like the way. Again, it sounds narcissistic, but it's like, it's something that I have never had in my life, and I'm proud of myself for it. Right. I love the way that I come up, like, I think, because we had a topic that was like, what do you think that you do better than anybody else? And I think that I come up with off the wall analogies better than anybody in the world, where it's like, I can compare you to somebody and you'd be like, oh dude, that makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, I think I do that really well, and I enjoy hearing myself do that. And like a couple of years ago, I'd be like, God, I'm so fucking annoying. But now I'm like, fuck yeah, I killed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do that for my buddies too, where it's like, hey, next time we record, maybe try this or maybe try that. You know what I mean? I'm always kind of thinking about, like, I care about making sure everybody else is good before I am. So it's like listening to that and seeing, like, maybe your inflection wasn't great on that word, and maybe this is something you should work on. Like, our guy Matt always mispronounces stuff and always stumbles over his words. And I told him, don't stop doing that, because it's you.
Yeah.
Right? It's you, and it's now part of the show. Everybody knows that it's you. And if everybody hears that you're constantly, like, if everybody can tell if you're constantly second guessing yourself, especially because now we're on video.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's going to slow everything down. It's not going to be the same show.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I love listening back to it now.
No, for sure. I think there's definitely things that when you listen back, you realize, like, not tics, but certain things about yourself that you do that just is natural. And you can either try to correct that, or you can just embrace it.
Yeah.
But when you're on the spot recording and you're trying to work through like your thoughts, it's hard to just push through the awkwardness, because sometimes, because if you think about it too long, then it gets awkward, and people can recognize that you're second questioning yourself. So just talking and letting and going with it. I mean, I say a lot of things that probably sound fucking stupid, but it's better than, a bunch of awkward silence and then not knowing where to go with it.
I enjoy the podcast stuff. Like, I used to do radio in high school. And radio's a little bit different because you have to watch what you say, right? I can, for the most part, say whatever the hell I want, right? You know what I mean? Like, without, like, ruining the brand that I'm creating for myself, right? And the podcast side is so much more like, if I were to close my eyes and pretend that none of this stuff was here, we could be having the same exact conversation right now.
Yeah, that's the goal of this podcast,
you know what I mean?
Is to just conversate. But it oftentimes turns into an interview, because I think people think that they're coming on and they can't ask me questions, but, like, I just want to have a conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
And then just record it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to do the intro and the outro, which I hate, but
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I like podcasting. I think Ross said it in his episode, which was episode 1. I think everybody would benefit from having their own podcast, whether you have 0 listeners or you go viral.
You don't even post it?
Yeah, exactly. You get shit out.
It's think about it this way. So in 1996, your own podcast was you just writing shit down, like your journal. You know what I mean?
Well, I was just being born, so.
Well, okay. For me, I mean, I was a couple years old, but like. If you think about like 1996 and like what you would see on TV or like early 2000s, what you'd see on TV, like the little brother would go through the older sister's like fucking notebook.
Diary,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, the diary. Like, this is my diary of stupidity. Like that's my show. You know what I mean? And people aren't going to, they laugh with me rather than laughing at me. And I mean, if they fucking laugh at me, as long as they're fucking hitting subscribe or download, cool. Like whatever, as long as they're listening, I don't care. Because it's more for me than it is for you.
And that's why I appreciate about your podcast, and I would say I appreciate about my own podcast. Again, one thing I'm proud of is I don't like listening to shows. I want a podcast to be authentically you. Like I don't want to listen to the podcast because I think you're going to tell me. Like I don't because you. Hold on, let me rephrase this. I don't want to listen to a podcast because I think you're going to make up some fictional story that I'm interested in. I'll just read a book from a professional author. I want to listen to a podcast because I want to learn about the person in the podcast and hear their experience. It's all comes down to storytelling. I love listening to people's stories.
Yeah. I mean, so like, I can't even listen to Dave and Chuck the Freak anymore.
Okay.
I can't listen to Mojo in the Morning because it's so segmented and they have to talk a certain way. Like, they are them, but it's also a little bit of a ruse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my show's me. It is all me. And yeah, I embellish a little bit sometimes, but that's always been me in my life. You know what I mean? Like I enjoy telling a story, and if that means like taking something and not like telling a lie, obviously, but like I enjoy making a small detail of a story a bigger detail because it could set up the whole reason. It's like the butterfly effect, right? Yeah. If you change this one thing, that whole story might not have been able to happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's what I do when I normally tell stories. I think that's a good thing to do with people like that. Would you say you're ever worried about saying something that could get you canceled? Yeah. Like, for example, if I'm having a conversation at the bar, it's completely candid with my friends. Like, I don't think I could have the exact conversation. Maybe I could have like 80% of that conversation on a podcast. Yeah. But
it was different when we weren't on Twitch.
Yeah.
Because I could edit it out.
See, but I don't like when people edit that shit out because I want it like.
Let me, not to cut you off. Yeah. I want to explain the problems that we were having. I have a guy on the show who feels like he can say anything he wants.
Okay.
And I'm cool with that, but he's saying it to get a reaction rather than saying it because it's him. And I'm not calling him out by any means. He's a C-word guy, and I'm not, and I don't want my podcast to be that. I don't want our podcast to be that, and everybody else agrees. And at first, we didn't have a whole lot of female listeners, and now we do, and they have a lot of say in what we do because they respond to things now. You know what I mean? And it was turning a lot of female viewers off.
See, when you said C word, I thought you meant like, I was like, a car guy? You're not a car guy?
See you next Tuesday.
Yeah, I got you now. But for a while, I was stuck on that. And I was just looking at you nodding. But I know what you mean now.
Keep up with me. Keep up. Yeah, and it's we had to sit down. Like, he fought us on it.
Yeah.
And we had to sit him down and be like, listen. He's like, I'll call any one of our friends that are women, and I'll call them right now. Go ahead, buddy. He called every single one of them. They told him to stop saying it. So, like, there is, and I'm sure you feel the same way, where like you're like, I hope he's not going there. I hope he's not going there, or I hope she's not going there. You know what I mean? You want those candid moments. At the same time, though, it's your brand.
Oh yeah,
and you know what you want your brand to be.
I know. There was episode 25. We talked about taboo language, taboo words.
Oh yeah.
Specifically, C word's one. F word, not F-U-C-K, but F-A-G, which I said on the podcast, not calling anybody it. N word, like the R word.
Yeah.
Those are words that like you really don't want to put out as like your brand's putting out. But at the same time, if somebody's explaining the word in a story and not calling somebody it, I don't think that should be an issue, but unfortunately in today's day and age, it is an issue. So that situation came around and I had to just blurt it out. Like I kept it in, but I put like a
you put a tone over it. So here, and his argument was Joe Rogan does it, Part of My Take does it, Bert Kreischer does it. Okay, think about how many people listen to them daily. How many people listen to us? Mm-hmm. I mean, we get anywhere from 100 to 300 listeners. You know what I mean? Like, and more than that. They're getting 10,000, 4 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those people know what they're about. I'm nobody.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. But if I'm nobody that's already getting canceled and I'm nobody getting canceled, then what are we doing here?
Well, plus that's their job. Like we have job. That's my biggest thing. If I didn't have a job, like if I was an entrepreneur, I owned my own shit, or maybe this was the only way I made money, I'd be a lot more candid.
Yeah.
Like I'm as candid as I can be, but I know that if I say one thing wrong, it goes to my work. Pew!
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and plus I do try to be mindful. Like I do want to respect other people's stuff, but the point of this is like if I say something that you don't agree with, then tell me about it. Because I will never be one to attack you if you disagree with what I'm saying. But it's hard to do that.
That's what the show is about, though. Like having a conversation about that disagreement.
Yeah, but it's hard to. And I've said this before on the podcast. It's hard because there's times where people come on and there's a question I really want to ask somebody, like because maybe I had a prejudice against them, or I want to know like about a situation that I knew about but not very much. Mm-hmm. But I don't want them to think I'm attacking them. Yeah. So I'm just like, what do you want to talk about? And kind of just go at their own pace.
Yeah.
But I want to dig in deep, and they can do that to me too. But it's hard to do that because I don't want to, pit somebody against themselves or pit them against me.
Yeah.
And you don't know how somebody's gonna react unless like I know you well, that I might ask deeper questions. But if like I've only met you once or less than that.
Yeah. See, and that's the difference. Like here and with us, like us, it's very breezy. Like here, you really tackle some topics.
Try to.
I mean, I talk about like if you could create a video game, what would you create? And mine was like, it's GTA, but you start as a low-level gangster in the Joker's crew, and then you move yourself up. You know what I mean? Okay. Or like the other guy was like, you remember Slam Ball? Like you jump off of trampolines and dunk the ball? Yeah, but with like knives and shit. You know what I mean? But you're like taboo language actually, and like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like I can really go after people with questions when we interview them, and they're okay with it. And it's just because it's a different kind of...
Yeah, because it's more of a different environment. That's more of like a creative space. Like
we also drink heavily on the show. So
well, I always offer people drinks. I think some people take it because they're nervous. I think some people avoid it because they're nervous or because they don't drink.
Yeah.
But that's actually very quick aside. It is weird that like alcohol is like the one type of like drug or stimulant that you have to explain why you don't do it. Like if somebody doesn't drink, because I didn't drink until I was 22, and then like I went through some shit that made me start drinking, which is a bad excuse, but it happened.
Yeah.
So, but before that, like any party I was ever at, why don't you drink? Oh, you should be drinking. It's like, why?
Well, think about it this way. It's drinking is like biblical. You know what I mean? Like drinking goes back so far, and it's written in history as something that people do to either take some weight off their shoulders, to relax, to have fun. It's so ingrained in like world society that, I mean, for me, I think that might be the biggest reason, right? Because everybody has always done it, that when you don't do it, it's like not part of the norm. I don't agree with it because I didn't start drinking until my sophomore year of college.
Yeah, that was
right around the same.
Yeah, sophomore or junior year, or in between there. Either way, it is just, it never really bothered me per se, but it was kind of just like I noticed it. And it was kind of, and it bothers me when I see somebody doing it to somebody else. Like,
yeah,
I don't really care if people want to, what's it called, put on like peer pressure on me. It doesn't really affect me too much. But when I see like somebody else at a party who's not drinking, and somebody's like bothered, like hounding them, why not?
Who cares?
It fucking pisses me. It's like, yeah, why are you concerned? If go have fun.
I was at Topgolf with my parents yesterday. Yeah. My mom wanted to do like a family day, And my dad's just like an intense person. Like he's just competitive at all times, but it's the only way he can have fun. He's just like talk shit, and it's like fun shit. Like he's not like, pointing fingers like, fuck you. You know what I mean? And my mom was like, loosen up, like have fun. I was like, that's how he has fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you don't drink and you're not being a wet blanket, have fucking fun.
Yeah.
If you're being a wet blanket and you're not drinking, just go home. Like you don't have to be here. You know what I mean? I don't like the people who make it a huge point that they don't drink and then they're awful.
Oh yeah.
Like those people just need to go home.
Well,
like,
they're on their high horse.
Yeah, don't come to like I don't drink. Okay, who cares?
If you go around telling people you don't drink, that's annoying. But like if people ask you, you're like, yeah, no, I just don't drink.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Yeah. It shouldn't even really be a conversation. Hey,
do
you want to drink? No, okay.
I don't leave drink. It at that. I smoke meth. I mean, it's like
everyone's got their trade-off. Yeah. Everyone's got their vice. But no, that a little bit from what you were saying kind of like brought this thought up. Like everyone has their own way of like having fun, or anybody has their own way of anything. Mm-hmm. I saw, funny enough, even though I don't really think getting information from Twitter is good. I saw a tweet that said like somebody was talking to her therapist and they said, or their brother who was a therapist or whatever. Basically, the moral of the tweet was anybody's behavior makes sense with enough information. And like I saw that, I'm like, that's fucking true. Like there's never been a time where somebody like I felt somebody was doing so wrong that once I found out more about why they were doing it, I was like, okay, I at least understand it. There's never been a time where I'm like, no, I still don't understand it.
That's with your personal relationships. That's with business transactions. That's with anything. I mean, you can, if you don't know the whole story, Gandhi could look like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Hitler could look like a savior.
A god. He looked like that to a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. And I made that point on this podcast before. It's literally all about, and that's why, again,
Hitler was 4 news stories away from looking like a god.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Which is insane. It's insane. But that's why I think people need to talk about the shit that's so polarizing, because on the other side of like conflict is a little bit more understanding. And if you don't understand it yet, well then find out more, research more.
I agree with you 100%. And here's where I think the fundamental problem is. Human beings do not deal with conflict historically very well.
No.
Especially right now. And those conversations have to be had, right? They have to be, because it's the only way that you're able to... Empathy is what drives the world.
Yeah.
The minute you're able to empathize with somebody is the minute that you can agree with somebody, is what I believe, right? No matter if you not necessarily agree, but recognize somebody else's opinion.
Yeah.
Right? And the world doesn't deal with empathy very well, or is a little bit blinded to it, right? It needs to be a 100% everybody around, and then everybody like not necessarily agrees with each other, but could coexist with each other. So if you put something out on Twitter right now that's a little bit polarizing, you're going to have a 50-50 split. Yeah. Some people calling you a piece of shit, some people being like, hell yeah, raise that flag.
I mean, for sure. And it's weird too, because empathy is, an emotion, right? And that's something that I think if you have empathy, you're emotionally intelligent, or at least partially. Humans are very emotional creatures, but you'd think because we're so emotional, we'd be good at empathy. But when it conflicts, when it conflicts against our emotion, that's where there's an issue. We can't look at things factual because we're so emotional about it.
So the difference between sympathy and empathy is a bridge, right? So sympathy and empathy are at different ends of a bridge. Sympathy leads to empathy, right? Mm-hmm. So sympathy is feeling bad for somebody. Empathy is seeing putting yourself in their shoes and seeing their side of it, right? So sympathy leads to empathy, but empathy can only exist with sympathy, okay? So I'm getting to a point here. Human beings are really good at being sympathetic because we're like you said, emotional creatures. We can feel bad for other people, but the minute that it impacts what you're doing, that bridge is burned.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of people think, where they can't get to that empathetic side of the bridge because they're thinking that your thinking doesn't line up, and they're going to have to change the way they think about things.
Well, yeah, I think there's so many things that we could empathize over that would ultimately just destroy us. Yes. So we have to pick and choose what's going to fit with what we can what we can physically or mentally are capable of empathizing with. Mm-hmm. Because there's so much sad shit out there that if I was to empathize with everything, I would have no time for anything in the day, and I'd probably just go crazy.
You would be a sad sack of shit.
Yeah, you'd probably die.
Do you remember Bruce Almighty?
Yeah.
Where he's like, he can hear everybody's like prayers. Yeah. You'd be that guy. You'd just be sitting there scratching your head, like holding your ears shut, hoping that it stops. And you're allowed to disagree with things. The difference is being able to see why you disagree about it, but also still know that it's another human being. And you can still coexist with that person, knowing that you have disagreements, because that's what makes the world actually fucking work.
Yeah.
If everybody agreed, if everybody agreed about everything,
it'd be boring.
Did you ever watch Fairly Odd Parents?
Yeah.
Where they turned the whole world the same and everything was gray. They were all like gray blobs.
Don't know if
you don't have to, as long as somebody else listening knows.
I've seen Fairly Odd Parents. Don't know if I can.
It would be so boring.
Well, also we wouldn't get very far.
No.
Because diversity of thought breeds innovation, which I've said before.
I mean, think about the Greeks. You think about like Aristotle, like all of those like major thinkers that you learn about in history. None of them agreed with each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of them agreed about certain points, but they would come together, work on something together, and even if it had different sides, they wrote down that it had different sides, right? You could branch off and go this way, or you could branch off and go this way. It's theorizing about thought that isn't the same, but how to coexist with it not being the same, right? Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Okay. I'm following, and I agree. I think ideally that would be the way to do it, but again, people get emotional. I think people take things too personal. Like,
you're telling me,
dude. There's been so many times on this podcast where people come on and they're telling me stuff and I'm listening to it and I'm absorbing it and I actually am learning from it. But in my core being, I'm like, I just can't agree with that. But like, I still I had enjoyed the conversation. Mm-hmm. Would hang out with the person.
Yeah.
That shouldn't bother me. Like, it shouldn't have to disrupt our relationship.
Yeah.
But it unfortunately oftentimes does, even within family too. Like, I know people who don't talk to their family because, for whatever reason that they disagree on something. And that's just, I could never, ever imagine cutting off somebody like family because of a disagreement.
I mean, I feel like sometimes it's necessary, because if neither party can like come to a, I guess, point of like easy flowing, you know what I mean? Some people just aren't meant for your life. You know what I mean? On the same side though, like knowing that this person disagrees with you, but also like hoping that they're good. You know what I mean? Hoping they're good and like hoping for the best. We just like don't agree, and every time we come together, it's just like conflict. Like I know I've said a lot of like, people need to recognize where each other's at, like the big empathy thing, right? I also do think that sometimes there just are people who aren't good for your life.
Yeah, I'm not saying you have to be friends with everybody, but I don't know.
It's a tough conversation. It's weird because it forces you to think objectively, which is inherently the most difficult thing on the planet to do. You can think subjectively, but objectively, like look at everything as a whole. So if you were to make a huge outline and look at everything as a whole rather than the single point, and know why somebody might think this way and know why you feel this way and why somebody else might feel that way. Thinking objectively is the hardest thing on the planet to do.
Oh, yeah. It takes a long time to do it. But I tell you, because I've done that, it took me probably a year and a half, 2 years, and honestly still having realizations about certain situation in somebody. I'm just like, okay, I can start to understand, yeah, this person may have been in the wrong for certain things, but it wasn't by themselves.
Yeah.
It almost makes you like, I mean, again, based on the situation, it almost makes you kind of like get over the situation, because you're like, all right, well, it's not because they hated me or they wanted to fucking wrong me or whatever it was. It's because they had their story that made sense to them, and that kind of goes back to everyone's behavior makes sense with enough information.
See, and that, I think thinking. So if you want to talk, if I want to go back to that bridge, the sympathy empathy bridge, I think that thinking objectively and forgiving are on the opposite sides of the same bridge. So if you can think objectively, like outside of the situation, think objectively about a certain situation. So let's say you disagreed with somebody and it turned into a fight. You kind of like haven't been talking to that person for a month. If you're able to sit down and look at the whole issue as a whole, like the whole issue, like everything, and then realize that, oh, this is why this person thinks that way. This is why I think that way. I think you're able to cross that bridge into forgiveness, and then you can start to mend that relationship.
Oh, yeah. For sure. And that's why, honestly, sometimes it just takes time to step away from the situation because initially, no one's going to go into a disagreement initially thinking objectively. It's always going to be emotion. But it takes like maturity to step back from that and then, reshuffle your cards and analyze them.
So if my parents have always done this to where, and at first it was like my dad's just kind of being a baby. But when my parents would have their arguments, like if they were to ever argue, my dad would tell my mom, I'll be back. Get in the car, drive around for 20 minutes and come back. And then they would sit at the table and figure it out. And it's like, okay, he just needed that. And she probably did too, right? You know what I mean? She probably was
pissed her off at the time.
At the time, was the Kevin Hart where you storm out, forget the diaper bag, come back in for it, whatever. But she was probably initially like, fuck that guy. Yeah. If he wanted to figure this out, he wouldn't have walked out, and then start to realize, okay, I got some shit I got to think about for a second, and then he comes back and you're like, all right, I'm ready for the talk.
No, I know. So somebody used to be close with their dad. I mean, they had fights. Would go and like he'd go for either a day or even a couple days sometimes. Not doing anything like hooking up with anybody. Just take a space, and it was always like, oh shit! Like it worried like the family because it was kind of like, oh shit, it's serious.
Here we go,
when he'd come back, things would be a lot better than when he left, just because he took time to collect his thoughts, simmer down, and then they'd have a conversation.
I think a lot of the times it's not. I'm trying not to sound like, well, men do this and women do this. A lot of the time, so just me like going through therapy throughout my entire life, like sitting down with an actual therapist, most of the time men translate like sadness and just emotions in general into anger. Right?
Yeah, sure.
And so a lot of the times I feel like guys need to remove themselves from the situation just to calm down.
Oh, yeah.
Because it could be something so like I got into an argument over somebody not picking a TV show, or we were going to a movie, and I was like, you tricked me into whatever. So it was stupid. So I said, hey, here's the movies that are out. Let's go see a movie tonight. Sounds good. And I said, all right, you pick a genre, and I'll give you the movies that are out in that genre. Okay, pick the genre. Here are the movies. Okay, sounds good. Which one do you want to go see? And it's that I don't care conversation, right? I would, if I were to pick two, I'd want to see these two. Okay, sounds good. I'll see either of those two. Well, I don't care what you think I want to see.
Yeah.
Sorry. What I want to see, I'm somebody who's always like, I need to know what your opinion is at all times. Like, not that, because I feel like I don't know what the right decision is a lot of the times. In my head, I know what I want, right? But it goes back to, I have this constant fear of knowing that somebody might not be okay. So I need to know how they feel about this situation. And it just turned into, just fucking tell me what you need, man. Yeah. Just tell me what you want. And then if it's not what I want, then we can pick between two of those and then figure it out from there. Like, I'm not trying to pin you into a decision. Yeah. I want to work on this decision together. And I freaked out because it was just like, there was a couple other things that happened in the week. And I was just like, dude, are you serious? Like, how?
Can't pick a fucking movie?
You can't even pick a movie. How are we supposed to pick anything else? You know what I mean? There's somebody I've been with for a long time. And it was just like piled up on other bigger decisions that just like I finally snapped. And I was like, I'm going to stay with my parents for a couple days. Right? And then I came back and I was like, I was acting ridiculous. I was acting childish. It was over a movie, whatever. Here's why I was acting that way. Here's what led up to that. Let's work on that.
See, well, it's big that you could recognize that and remove yourself from it. But dude, I think that's something like everyone can empathize with, right? Especially guys. The classic, what restaurant, or what do you want to go to eat? Okay. And it's never a straight answer. I'm the same way. I don't want to pick something that you're ultimately going to dislike.
You're just saying yes because you think it's what I want.
Well, or because you don't want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So just let's both pick one, and if it's not the meal I want, I'm not going to bitch about it. But if I pick the wrong one for you, I'm going to be more upset.
Yeah.
But no, you were saying something that made me think. So you say that you have a fear of like picking something that somebody else like that could.
That's like whether it's the smallest decisions or the biggest decisions. And it's something that I'm currently working on with in my life right now, because it has caused turmoil in my life for the past 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, for my entire life, I have this cycle of like relationship shit that I keep putting myself in, to where I'll jump into a relationship. I mean, it's always somebody that I care about like a lot. But I'll jump into a relationship maybe a little earlier than I'm supposed to, because I think it's what that person wants. You know what I mean? And it is like, it's something that I kind of want, you know what I mean? But I guess I should have just let you ask the question, but I have this inherent fear. Like, I walk on eggshells daily. Mm-hmm. Right? I have this inherent fear that I'm not making the right decision. And you can ask any one of my friends, anytime that I have a big decision, I'll ask 40,000 people what they think. And a lot of the times it's people who are giving me answers what they think I want.
Yeah, which is bullshit. Mm-hmm. Wastes your time.
Yeah, that's why I always ask my brothers, because my brothers, and like the relationship I have with them, they're like, fuck you, do that. Like, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if I don't get that answer back, I have a huge problem with it.
Okay.
And I get angry rather than, like, I get frustrated and it turns into anger if I can't get that back. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it honestly like ruined my last relationship.
Because you wanted to make sure you were doing the right thing.
I was with somebody who would only talk about things if there were solutions, a couple different solutions that you could turn to right away.
Okay.
And like, for me, it's like, I don't care about the solutions. Like, we can figure a solution out. I just want to know how you feel about it, so then I can react. I'm a very reacting person.
Okay.
Like, I want to know what you feel about it so I can make it easier for you.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I kind of find myself in both your position and the person you're talking about position, because I think, if I like have somewhat of an idea of what to do, I want to take all the responsibility, because that way, if it goes wrong, I'm the first one to say, yeah, it's my fault. But like, I don't want you to ever feel like you caused something wrong. Mm-hmm. However, if it's like something I know nothing about, for example, we just rescued a cat, right? And he's a great cat, but he does not get along with
the other one.
One other one. Either way, he's old, like it's a stray cat. Like, he's like 2 or 3, and that's a pretty mature time to get them neutered.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we got him neutered, and the day we brought him back, he's like bleeding from his surgery spot, and like
his ball sack.
Yeah, his little kitty balls.
Just say it.
He busted a nut. And like, he seemed like really hurt. Like, for one, I was frustrated because he was getting blood everywhere.
Yeah,
for two, he doesn't get along with the cat. So
there's a lot of white in here.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want him upstairs because I didn't want him fucking with the other cat. So he's just downstairs in the basement, which is sad. It's just concrete.
You were a stray cat doing your own thing, and now you're stuck in a basement.
And I love this cat. Like, he's a great cat. So I also didn't want him to get hurt. I also just spent a lot of money on his medical bill. So I'm like freaking out, and the animal hospital's closed. And I don't know the first thing about animal. Like, I don't even know the first thing about like what to do if I get a cut, let alone a fucking cat.
Yeah.
And I feel
super glue.
Yeah, and
it's my solution for everything.
And so when I don't know anything about the situation, because I'm so prone to taking like initiative, I think people expect that now. Like, my close, me and my girlfriend, I'll try to solve something all the time, and she probably hates it sometimes because sometimes she's very capable of doing it herself, but I'll just try to do it anyway because I want to help. This situation, she looked to me because she also doesn't have, like, she's a nurse, but she doesn't have veterinarian experience. So like, I'm like freaking out because I don't even know what to do. And then I got frustrated because I'm like, well, you are a nurse. You should know more than I should know.
Yeah.
And I didn't like yell at her, but I was clearly getting visibly upset. And so I removed myself and I was like, I got to go.
Because you were stressed out in yourself.
Yeah, not in her at all.
Yeah.
And I told her that out. Like, we didn't fight or anything, but I told her, I'm like, I got to go to the bar to watch a comedy show because I'm going to freak out. I'm going to just punch something. And like, I don't want to do that. And it was, I mean, I can laugh about it now because she's like, I've never seen you get so worked up. And it was about a fucking cat that we just rescued. I'm like, yeah, because if I don't know shit about a situation and people are looking at me to fix it, I freak out. If I even know one detail about the situation, I'll try to do it myself. But
yeah,
I felt completely helpless.
See, and I've always been like that. Like that. Okay. Like, if I know what I'm doing, just let me do it.
Yeah.
If you have any suggestions while I'm doing it, I'm all here for it. I just know that I'm at least not gonna hesitate. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about I know more than everybody else. I'm not somebody.
I'll take action.
I don't hesitate. Let's fucking get it done. Yep. Right. I moved in with this girl, and I've never lived with a significant other before. And I pulled the reins back a lot because I wanted it to work, right? And she couldn't give me that side of her. You know what I mean? And
like, be vulnerable?
Be vulnerable. Like, we don't have to have a solution with everything. And the problem was I wasn't getting it, and instead of continuing to try and just talk about that being an issue for me, I just like stopped trying together. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like, that's not me either. So it just like I feel like you it's something that everybody has to work on. It's like, you don't want to be, we're in a society now, and I think it's just learned that it's like, either tell your opinion, like, you can tell your opinions, but like, you're super worried about how people are going to respond to them.
Yes. 100%.
And it could be about the dumbest shit.
Or it can be about something pretty big. Well, that's even harder.
Well, I mean, it's always been difficult. Like, big shit, it's always been difficult, right? But like, the smallest things. Yeah. I mean, everybody just went through like the toughest thing that we could probably we'll ever probably remember in our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, we were stuck in our homes, and like, that does something to somebody. You know what I mean? And if I'm watching you struggle, and all you can talk about is how there isn't a solution, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course there's not a solution. I just want to know how you feel.
Yeah. And
so I can help you.
Sometimes that is part of the solution. It's just fucking airing it out to somebody.
And I mean, you can only beat that. Like, and I was so frustrated that I would end up yelling. Mm-hmm. Like, you just don't ever want to talk. Like, blah, 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 blah. And then somebody's sleeping on the couch. And it's like, you know, your grandparents, your parents, don't ever go to bed mad at somebody. And it's like, we started doing that, you know? And that it's just like, I need to know that I can walk confidently in all of my actions. Like, that's something that I'm currently working on in my life. If I'm working through something for somebody or with somebody and I have the reins, if at any point I notice that they're uncomfortable, then talk about it. But if I need to just like walk confidently every single day in what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is I mean, it comes to like just knowing yourself, right? I know myself so well that I know every single step I take, I'm not going to regret it. Yeah. Like, I'm so worried about regretting things that I'm like, I'm constantly, what's that new TikTok now where people are like, they like pause, they freeze. I can't remember the song for it, but.
The mannequin challenge?
No, that was a long time ago. But there's just like new TikTok thing. I don't remember the song for it, but they'll be doing whatever and then stop and like do, like, I'm constantly like going forward. Okay. And like take 2 steps and then like take a step to the right and like think about it and then keep going. You know what I mean? And it's just like that, I feel like is what everybody should strive for is whether or not you're making the wrong decision or not, be confident in your initial first couple steps. Yeah. Well, because lots of people, I think their issue is they won't even like, they're not confident enough to even take those steps. And then the issue just builds and builds and builds and builds. Because at least if you're taking a step, it's wrong. Well, now you know, don't go in that direction. Take a different direction. Right. And here's the other thing too. If you're that person, knowing that you're the person, whether it's a relationship, friendship, whatever relationship it is, and you know that this person is taking the initiative, don't gaslight them. You know what I mean? I think that's a really big part of it too, where it's like, don't be like, I'll just wait for him to make the wrong move and then tell him it was wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, have input.
Well, see, that ties back into something you were saying previously, but I wanted you to get all your point. For example, you said if you know a little bit about a situation, you have no problem taking the reins, but you want to know that, like, or even if there's no solution, you want to know their opinion, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I feel sometimes. It's like people look to me to take the reins, and like I usually do it, and I have no problem doing that. But like some feedback saying if you agree or if you're cool with this would be great. Like,
so that I can take 4 more steps.
Yeah, because basically I've been taking silence most of my life as okay, go ahead, because no one's confronted it, but it makes me feel a whole lot confident in myself and in like the relationship that I'm in with this person. Mm-hmm. If they just say, yeah, I'm supporting this, you know what I mean? And I also don't want to have to ask.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of my life I've been called like selfish, and it's like, you didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And now I've taught myself to like ask first, you know, and now I it's like take those first couple steps and say, are you okay with this? You know what I mean? Like, take those. It's the act first, ask for forgiveness later. Don't get to the point where you need to ask for forgiveness. Act first, then ask for input.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if it's what you want to do, start to do it, and then be like, all right, is this good? Is this what you're comfortable with?
Yeah. You only start first, ask for forgiveness if it's work. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, exactly.
Because otherwise nothing's getting done.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, in a more delicate situation like relationships, start and then ask for input and then adjust your path accordingly.
Yeah. I mean, we grew up, I mean, I feel like kids now are a little bit better at that.
You think so?
I'll explain why. So when we were kids, it was like, make sure you're nice to everybody. Be on your P's and Q's. Make sure blah, 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 blah. You got to be a nice person. You know what I mean? So we're so worried that what we're doing is impacting everybody else that you're afraid to take those initial steps. Now it's like, be happy. Go out and do that shit. Like, if people people don't like you for what you're doing, for what makes you happy, then they're not people who should be in your life. Like, that's what I feel like is the mindset right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what people have been telling me to do right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm conflicted on that. I definitely think that's the mindset.
I am, right and now. I think a lot of it is because of what we grew up with, what we learned.
Yeah, but I will say, and I'm trying to be open to this idea, because I definitely think that you should do what makes you happy, but again, not at the expense of others. And I feel like there's some people who are so fucking worried about making themselves happy that become selfish, and they have disregard for anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's where I have an issue. Like, if you being happy is you quitting your job and whatever, that doesn't affect me. Mm-hmm. Go do it, even though it might not be the popular opinion. But if you being happy is like ignoring all my shit and not giving me a reason to why, like, I feel like people owe a certain amount of...
You still have to interact.
Yeah. Like, even if, like, so for example, people will say that I cut this person off, they weren't good for me, and I don't owe them shit. To me, I feel like if you were ever close with somebody, even if, you know, you felt like it was a good relationship with this person, they thought it was toxic, you should explain that and then figure that out. And then cut them off if you want to do that. But, like, I hate the idea of cutting people off.
Cold turkey somebody.
Yeah, like, that seems selfish. And I feel like if that was... It's been done to me, and I hated it, but eventually I got whatever. But I feel like I would feel so shitty doing that to somebody else, even if I was like, all right, I'm 100% sure I'm better without that person in my life. The other person's still human. Give them an explanation.
Yeah.
And if they try to, you know, fix it and you don't want to listen to it, then you don't have to. But fucking give a reason before... So I just feel like some people get too much worried about themselves that they become selfish.
Yeah, I mean, let's tie it all back, right? So I do this podcast. I mean, it's for me, but I mean, we talk about some heavy shit like every once in a while, right? And it's mostly
bar talk.
Yeah, well, it's usually on Wednesdays. It's not usually bar talk because we get like, Flash Friday. I don't even remember doing bar talk. And like Wednesdays, sometimes we usually end the show with it. It's like something happened in one of the guys' lives, and we're like, we usually keep it nice and light and stuff. But like I talked to you about yesterday, somebody told me, "Well, you look fine on social media,"
Yeah.
And so we talked about how like social media isn't a reflection of how somebody's feeling mentally and emotionally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's the Robin Williams thing. Like sometimes people who are suffering the most look the best on the outside. And I do this podcast to fill something within myself, right? I'm sure you do this podcast because it fills something in your mind, right? It makes something in you feel good.
Yeah.
You feel like you're accomplishing something, right? On the other hand, though, if somebody can relate to me and relate to how I feel or stories I've told or just like know that like somebody else is just like me and that feels good, that's the other part. You know what I mean? Like that honestly feels better. It's like when you give somebody a present on Christmas that makes them like cry or that's like something they always wanted. That feels better than any gift you've ever gotten.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. And I agree. And I think the same thing can be said, like, for another example would be like community outreach. What do I get from volunteering my time or my money or my effort to do something? Yeah, I guess selfishly I could say I get the recognition of doing it, right? But that's a grain of salt compared to the feeling I get that somebody else appreciates that. Like, and it's selfish, right? Because I'm looking for appreciation, and I'm doing it because even if they don't tell me, I know that it will be appreciated. I wouldn't do community service if no one gave a shit about it.
Yeah.
But so it's selfish in the sense that I feel good about it, but it's selfless in the sense that you're doing something to help others.
I mean, there's never a pure selfless action.
Yeah, because everything that's selfless is motivated by you wanting
a desire in you.
Yeah. So I think in that, like in those situations, it's good to be selfish because you do those things because you like it, but it's a double benefit because it's helping others. And same thing with the podcast, like you said.
Yeah.
For me, it helps me get some shit out, and I also enjoy talking to other people. And I said this from the beginning, whether I have one viewer or 10,000 viewers, if one person's like, yo, your podcast helped me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Fucking, that's all I need.
Yeah. Because it's so to talk about that analogy thing that I feel like I'm good at, I feel like everybody's born with a hole punch.
Okay.
And
what do you mean?
Just like a paper hole punch.
Okay.
Like everybody's born with a hole punch. And there's things that happen in our life that cause us to have to use that hole punch on ourselves. And we're going our entire life trying to figure out how to fill those holes. Right? So that's why I'm saying there's no actual selfless action. But there's some selfishness that can fill other people's lives more than it fills you up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to explain the analogy, but I get it. And I like that.
Mm-hmm. Where it's like, I mean, you go through like right now, like a bad breakup, punch a hole, punch a couple holes, right? You have a Division I scholarship coming out of high school and you break your leg, you lose that scholarship. There's a couple holes. You get fired from a job that you love for something that wasn't your fault. Punch a couple holes, right? And so now it's your mission to, like in your brain, in your emotional and mental state, like all of that should motivate you to refill in those holes. You go and find a better job now that you love even more. You realize you didn't actually love that job and it took a lot more out of you than you actually thought. So now you're filling each one of those holes.
I was going to say, take the analogy a little bit further. Use the hole puncher, put in the binder, flip the page.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Nice.
Well,
that was good.
That was a tag team right there. So there's a
tag team to fill holes.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
More of that on honestly oversharing. No, I like the undertone of comedy. Couple different ways I like to always end this. First, I like to ask for a mental health tip. So anything you do to achieve good mental health, whether it be every day you do this or if you're having a bad day, you do it to kind of turn your day around. Anything that you do to, achieve good mental health yourself.
I write a lot, and it's something that I got away from for a while. And it's not like I'm like keeping a diary about my day. I turn what happened in my day into a story. So, and I probably could like try and publish it, but it's like this kid who, it's kind of like That's So Raven mixed with a couple other things where like a kid will literally like be walking down the street and like see somebody and like can see their emotions in like an analogy, right? So like sees a lady crossing the street and sees that she's like super happy. And then they like make eye contact, and it's like a superpower thing where his superpower is being able to see why that person feels that way that day, right? And so I just like write about that. Like, so it's like I saw something or something happened to me, and I like write a story about it, to where it's not the actual like the day-to-day thing, but it's like it allows me to get how I feel about what happened out better.
So it's almost like a third-person diary. So you write your story, but it's as if somebody's looking in at any story, but it happens to be yours.
So I always called it the fourth wall, right? So you are that fourth wall. The fourth wall controls everything behind it, right? So if you use a theater analogy, right, the fourth wall, you never want to break the fourth wall, right? The fourth wall controls everything that's going on behind it. So it's just a story about the fourth wall.
I like that. I was going to say, when you said writing, I was like, first, I went to music because of our previous conversation.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I do that. I mean, I randomly will do that too, but it's more about like the story stuff.
So it's kind of, is it like a running story? Is it like different days? It's not continuous.
It's like you remember like the Goosebumps book, where it was like 9 different stories in one and stuff. Like it's like that. Okay. Like it's a collection of short stories. It just because I felt like it was ingenuine in myself, ingenuine. Whatever the word is.
I don't know.
To just talk about my day. And because like I was like, who cares? Like, who cares? I don't even care what happened. It's how do I feel about it? And it's the only way I can actually like get my emotion and what I like, my opinions and how I just feel look at the world like down on a page.
Yeah. No, that's cool, because being able to take your feelings and put it into a story is a lot better than just saying what happened.
Yeah,
I think.
Like just a quick example, so we can end it here. But I went on a retreat my junior year going into senior year. It's called Kairos. I don't know if anybody listening has ever been, but you learn a lot about yourself. You learn about how much the people around you care about you, like all that kind of stuff. And they give you a notebook, and they're like, you can fill it or you can leave it empty. And instead of like writing stories down, I would draw a picture. Like there would be moments where I would like. There's like a big compound in like church compound in Canada, and we were right on the Lake Michigan, I think, whatever. We were right on Lake Michigan, and I don't know, whatever lake.
You're on a body of water.
Big body of water. I could see Cedar Point, right?
Okay.
So
that'd be Lake Huron or Erie.
Lake Erie. So and I would draw third-person pictures of. Like somebody was behind me just drawing me.
Okay.
And then it would they were always like no color. But the crazy thing is I would write the emotions that I felt that day as the lines for the drawings and as the shading for the drawings.
See, it sounds like you got some artistic
yeah, I mean, I was AP art, like all that kind of stuff. Like what you get on like my show isn't, I mean, it's me. But it's a very, like, small part.
You're an onion. You got to peel back the layers.
Yeah, like, I would love to do a show like this.
Yeah.
Where you just talk about real shit all day. Like, I'm super into that idea. The reason... I just, like... With the friends that I do, honestly, Oversharing with, they're not like that. They're really, like old school man's man kind of people, you know?
See, I could talk comedy all day. This takes, like, I can't do this back to back to back. It takes a lot out of me, which is why I only do it once a week, because it actually takes some energy to listen and get yourself prepared to have a conversation that. But I do, when I can have one, I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
One last question on that, your story. What made you, like, start doing that story type thing when you were writing down? Like, how'd you come up with that?
I mean, I'd love to say that it, like, was my own idea. It wasn't. So my family went through a lot of shit when I was like right around like 8 to 10 years old. And I was in therapy for it. And the therapist was like, what is something that you don't feel you get to do every day? So like it was something with our house. Realtors sold us a shitty house, like on purpose. And so my parents were always like in and out of court. Oh, geez. Excuse me. Sorry.
Good.
And my dad traveled for work anyway, so he wasn't really always home anyways. So I, at 8, was like making dinner for my brothers. You know what I mean? Like I took care of my brothers, like not necessarily by myself, but like a lot of time, like between the ages of like 8 and 14.
Okay.
And I mean,
you 8 and 14.
Yeah,
you, okay.
Me 8 and 14. I mean, a little bit after that too, like all through high school. And I said, I don't think that I have the right, because everybody else has so much going on, I have the right to pronounce or announce my feelings. And the therapist was like, first of all, that's super unhealthy, right? You need to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, like, what's something you always find yourself doing when you have some time? And I said, either reading or just like, because I'm not a huge reader, but when I have time, I enjoy it. But I just like write stupid stuff down. Like I would write jokes down, or even just like lyrics to a song that I like was already popular. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And she goes, what if you just started writing short stories based on a feeling you had that day? And I was like 8 years old. And I was like, sounds good. And they were, about like, Kenny fucking mom didn't give him pie that day. Like stupid stuff. But it helped. And then, I mean, I was like an amazing writer, like through, not to toot my own horn, but I was an amazing writer in high school. Like I won awards and stuff. And I can attribute it to that because I always was writing. Like, and my brain works like that. Like, I can get a lot of my feelings and like explain a lot of things with my voice, like to you. Like we talked about a lot today, right?
Yeah.
I could write 40 pages on what we talked about today.
Yeah. And
have it not repeat itself. You know what I mean? Like I'm able to really get everything down because I'm able to erase it too. I think that's you got a safety net there.
Yeah. You can take your time with it.
Yeah. It allows me to just like write it all down and just kind of like look at it and be like, okay, now why did I feel like that? You know what I mean? And then just keep going with the story.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing because if you can recognize your feelings, that's the first part, but then trying to figure out why so you can, figure out why. I think that's the most important part. So, yeah, I like that tip. And then one last thing that I always like to ask guests, and you get kind of a two-part because obviously you're going to want to promote your podcast, so go ahead and do that. But then after that, I like unsolicited ads. So anything you want to promote or recommend. It could be a TV show, it could be a candy bar, it can be anything like that. So first plug your podcast and then anything else you want to recommend. Okay.
So Honestly Oversharing, live on Twitch at 6:30 Eastern time.
On Wednesdays.
Every Wednesday. The episode, you can find us on Spotify, anywhere you can find podcasts. That show that we record on Wednesdays comes out on the following Monday.
Okay.
We want you to be able to start your week with your week with a laugh, so that's why we do that. There's Before War. It's called that because I play Call of Duty with the guy that I do the show with after. But Before War, it's 30, 45 minute, just stupid conversation, full media on Twitch, twitch.tv/honestly-oversharing. Just talk about stupid shit. Seth was with us yesterday and it was a lot of fun. And then Bar Talk every Friday. It's like a 3-hour stream. Same thing, twitch.tv/honestly-oversharing. That starts at around 8:30. And it's the same kind of thing, just with a lot more people.
See, that sounds funny as shit. I feel like
I want you to be able to be on that because you would have a lot of fun, especially because you played hockey and all these guys played hockey.
Oh boy.
So
hockey talk can get pretty toxic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's super toxic, and it did on last Friday night, and apparently I don't remember any of it. So yeah, that's the days we're doing our shows. You can find us on Instagram at Honestly Oversharing, Twitter at Honest Overshare, TikTok Honestly Oversharing. YouTube's going to be up soon. They flagged our first post immediately.
Bastards.
Because we had the Facebook logo, so I have to blur out the Facebook logo, which is stupid.
As if people don't know what Facebook is.
Yeah, whatever, dude. It's like, when people use Macs in movies and they didn't ask Mac, so they've
put a circle or put an apple.
Or a pear.
Or a pear.
Yeah, stupid. Yep, that's the show. It's a lot of fun. If you're just looking for stupidity for an hour, go ahead and give it a listen.
I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people need that.
Yeah.
So go give them a listen and drop a like and review, comment, feedback, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Something you want to recommend or promote? Put you on the spot there.
Yeah, that's a big one. Wow. There's a couple things I could promote.
Go for it.
I want to promote a guy who's on our show, Below Average Q. He's a Twitch streamer. I started a gaming corporation called Honest Gaming, where we pick up streamers. It doesn't matter what they play. I mean, I don't give a shit. But it's not like we're making you do tournaments or anything. It's give us your clips. I'm going to edit the videos for you. Make your TikTok famous. I'm the guy below average Q that I'm talking about. He's on our show. We did a couple clips for him. He got picked up by a professional team. And so he's a lot of fun to watch on Twitch. So that's twitch.tv/below average Q. Great guy. Fucking hilarious. The only other thing I guess I could promote, shit, I don't know. I guess that's it. That's a tough thing.
Or recommend, like, it'd be like a favorite. Like someone else did, like go get a candy bar. Go get a Reese's. That was Nathan's thing.
Oh, I'll recommend a show. Okay, so everybody's got Disney Plus at this point, right? Yeah, Gordon Ramsay has a show called, I think it's Uncharted. It comes out every Monday, and there's already 3 seasons, so you can binge watch most of it. It comes out every single Monday where he goes to a different place and like learns about the cuisine there. And it's not just about the cuisine, it's about the actual place itself. Okay. It's so interesting. And Gordon Ramsay at this point is a little bit cheesy, but like it's just like watching somebody that famous get surprised by something is really cool. And he's actually filming the 4th season right now. And the episode they just did was in Northern Michigan. He went like quail hunting in Northern Michigan. So Michigan's going to get a big shout out on next season. It's really, really, really good.
I always love those food shows. I'm surprised Gordon Ramsay could be on Disney Plus because he's pretty profane.
Well, they bleep it. So if I don't know if you've noticed this on Disney Plus, but a lot of those shows there's a lot of shows on there that are not kid friendly.
I've really only watched the Marvel
ones. Go through some of those shows. They're not every single one of them is kid friendly.
I'm sure they have filters so you can.
Well, yeah, I mean they bleep out Gordon Ramsay, but it's like he says fuck a lot.
Yeah,
and that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I think you could probably put like parental controls on it. I mean, so there's certain shows you could watch or not watch.
It's like Netflix has the kids thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, Rich, thanks for coming on. That was fun. Yeah, I fucking hate doing these sign-offs. I always forget what I'm supposed to say.
I always write it down before.
Oh, you have a teleprompter?
And then put it up, and then I can never see it.
I don't have my contacts in either, so that wouldn't help me now.
Yeah, probably not.
Anyway, honestly, Oversharing on all those social media platforms. Go check them out. Drop a listen, drop a like, drop a subscribe. Fucking smash that subscribe button. If you're listening to this and you want to be a guest on the podcast, reach out to me. I don't care who you are. I think it'd be a fun time. TIMM podcast at gmail.com is the email. TIMMpod at gmail.com is the email. TIMM podcast is the social handles, and the name of the podcast is Trapped in My Mind. Drop a fucking listen, drop a like, drop a comment, and give me some feedback, and just absolutely butt fuck that subscribe button. Until next week. See you guys.
What the fuck did you just say?
vibing on.